Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammadin wa alihi wa azwajihi wa zurriyyatihi ajma'in. We have been looking at this very rich short entry by John Cottingham on Descartes' conception of intuition and its background and all that. Okay, so we had stopped here, so we'll continue from here. Inseparable from Descartes' account of intuition is the Platonic Augustinian notion that the mind is illuminated by the light of reason. The light of reason, or lux rationis. Now, light of reason is a common theme in the Islamic and Christian tradition, as well as in Platonic tradition. Now, the only thing is where this light of, there can be difference between different philosophers as to where this light is coming from. This light of reason from inside us, or there's some independent realm, or if there are Christian or Muslim philosophers, that light of reason might be coming from some superior portions of reality or regions of reality. So with Descartes, obviously has a conception of God, so it might be coming from God because God is a perfect mind, but it also might be from inside our own mind, because our minds are perfect too, as long as they are abstracted from our body interference, as we saw last time. Okay, so everyone knows Descartes wrote to Hobbes, who had questioned the metaphor that a light in the intellect means transparent clarity of awareness. So light for him means clarity and distinctness of mind, which comes through attention of mind, as we saw last. So it's not something beyond that. At least that's how he responded to Hobbes. In the meditation, Hobbes was obviously a materialist par excellence, and empiricist as well, and in that way. In the Meditations, Descartes preferred the term natural light. Natural light, light of reason, same diff. Lumen naturale, and he invokes the notion whenever he wishes to introduce into the argument premises which are supposed to be self-evidently manifest to the intellect, meaning his mind, self-evident principles, like the one we mentioned last time, like what were those? The nature of mind, etc. Okay, for example, the principle that there must be as much reality in the cause as in the effect. He seems to think that this is self-evident truth, even though what reality means and what cause means might be debatable, but for Descartes it's self-evident because mind can see its truth when it see it attentively and without interference from. So it seems like the light of reason for Descartes is this criterion of when the mind is working on its own and attentively, which results in clear and distinct ideas. And ideas, as long as they are ideas of mind or the object of mind, and as long as the clear object of mind and distinct object of mind, they are infallible in that sense and self-evident in that sense for Descartes. The notion is not without its problems. The notion is not without its problems. Which notion? There are few notions there, but it will become clear. Transparency of cognition, okay, suggests that there are certain truths which, when presented to the intellect, allow no room for denial. So they are absolutely true. That's what I've been saying. They are infallible. In that sense, the mind is infallible when working on its own and to its full potential. From a great light in the intellect, there follows a great propensity in the will to give the assent. Judgment is the function of will, but the ideas, truth is presented to the intellect, and then the will. But while this may be acceptable enough in the case of proposition which is logically impossible to deny, since their negation manifestly implies a contradiction, principle like the causal axioms in the third meditation seems to contain too many complex and debatable implications to fit obviously into the category. Now, this is a bit of critique of Descartes. It's hard to avoid the impression that Descartes sometimes uses the light metaphor. And we go back to this problem of it's hard to prove the capacity of intellect to intuit in this rationalist sense. That's why it's always debatable and always questionable. To claim, so Descartes sometimes uses the light method to claim a spurious authority for the argument which he deploys in his metaphysics. And not just Descartes, Plato as well, and all rationalists in that sense. That was Kant's basic objection to this capacity. This capacity, or the claim to this capacity. So it is hard to, where were we? It's hard to avoid the impression that Descartes sometimes uses the line metaphor to claim a spurious authority for the arguments which he deploys in his metaphysics. Sometimes, indeed, he verges on ranking the natural light equally with the light of faith. So, in a sense, that is so there are two types of faith: faith in reason. Indeed, can't talk about it, and then faith in faith, I guess, and faith in your faith. Sometimes, indeed, he verges on ranking the natural light equally with the light of faith, thus claiming that natural authority of reason, or its inborn authority, or its of reason, the same kind of respect traditionally accorded to the teachings of the church, since he was building a new church based on philosophy. For a more typically cautious and diplomatic approach, contrast, blah blah, the prevailing tenor of Descartes' philosophy is, however, firmly anti-authoritarian, is it not? He wishes others to be convinced only of what they themselves have seen as indubitable when they have internalized the arguments for themselves and meditated along with the author. Okay, yeah, that's what he says in Meditation. Descartes was nevertheless not very sanguine about the ability and willingness of his readers to follow the path of reason. So Descartes was not very sanguine, I think. Sanguine about the ability of willingness of his readers to follow the path of reason. Those who have long been in the habit of yielding to authority rather than leading their heirs to the dictate of their own reason will find it difficult to submit themselves exclusively to the natural light of reason. What makes him believe that he himself? You have to be really sure of yourself to think that you are, free from the dictates of the authority. Or maybe you are creating a new authority. I think that's a better way of describing it. Anybody can reject the authorities they don't believe in, but the main thing is the authorities you consider legitimate. Whether you can get rid of that, uh, that's the question. It may be seen from the last remark that Descartes' views on the natural law do not entail the implausible claim that any rational reader of his argument will automatically and immediately assent to their truth. From the fact that all men have the same natural law, it might seem that they should all have the same notion, but there is a great difference between the criterion of universal assent and the criterion of the natural law, since hardly anyone makes good use of that line, maybe except Descartes. For more on the okay, I think that was very useful. So I'm glad that we read that. Okay.